My bad, Joe. I'm here. Sorry. So like when it's a more casual live streams, just know that like if I don't show up on time, it usually just means that like the live stream will happen at some point that day. But I'm here. All right. So I just wanted to like hang out with you guys. What are you guys talking about? Yeah. Oh, you guys are having a whole conversation. Cool. I'm glad to hear that. All right. So, first and foremost, just as a few housekeeping things, next Thursday, so obviously not today, next Thursday, I'm hosting a panel to discuss whether or not Black women and white women need to start working on building bridges, and whether or not we need to start prioritizing solidarity as a class of women, or whether or not we should continue to, as one commenter very bluntly put it, stick to our own kind. And this is going to be a panel of women of American Black women, you know, no offense to Black women of, you know, the African diaspora across the world, but Black women and white women in America have their own politics, which in a weird way, I've noticed that like the rest of the world has somehow adopted these racial dynamics of American like race dynamics, which also is just kind of also shows to me how much there is like a social contagion element to it. Like someone was talking about how Britain educates and has holidays related to America's history of slavery, when British is one of the most, you know, the UK and Britain and England are one of the most prolific imperialist entities, you know, in human history. They have their own history to resolve and to discuss, and should be having their own, you know, holidays related to their own history of colonization. I don't know why they're taking on, you know, I think it's important that we teach about it and that, you know, we talk about it, but to be that centered really makes me feel like, again, a lot of it is just, this has become this like culture of, you know, we've like, we're all like adopting it, you know, as if like this is like our current, you know, reality. So anyway, whatever. I just wanted to have a group of first Black women on the panel. I'm going to even turn off my video, you know, I'm going to act mostly as moderator. I'm just going to ask like a few challenging questions. And I want, you know, the women in this community, if they're coming in good faith, to speak about their things. So as somebody who, you know, at this point, it's funny because even like I was meditating on the guy saying, you know, stick to your own kind. And like the fact of the matter is, it's like Black women are so heavily integrated into my life. So for me to stick to my own kind would literally require me to sort of dismantle my life as I know it and to somehow reconfigure it in a pretty dramatic way. So, and I've also noticed it just seems like conversations that happen online seem to be very different than conversations and interactions that I see in real day-to-day life. Another comment that was made was like saying like, oh, you know, you just seem to be, the stuff that you're talking about is all hood politics. You know, we're not talking like that's all just like kind of hood rat stuff. And I was like, you know, maybe, I guess, you know, my proximity is to Philadelphia, which is one of the largest Black cities and one of the blackest cities in the United States. We have one of the largest Black populations in the United States. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's been my experience. It just felt like a really classist comment. You know, it's what, so the Black dynamics that we should talk about are like the super privileged Black communities that have access to, you know, higher education and things like that. I mean, my experience has just been like really, you know, just Philadelphia community of Black communities, again, that are predominantly Black, you know, and I have grown up with Black kids and, you know, Black people who were Black in white communities. You know, I have like experience with Black people who grew up in predominantly white communities, and I have relationships with Black people who grew up in predominantly Black communities, and that's different too. So there's a lot of different things at play. Another thing that, you know, I was thinking about, someone had mentioned, and it's really true when they're saying, you know, I think Black women are, that, you know, have spoken on this and that I've seen in different communities, are saying that they have a hard time reconciling the fact that white women have had such a large role in, you know, owning slaves or participating in slavery. And what I think we're taking for granted the status of women now, today in 2022, and assuming that that was a similar status to women, 200 years ago. Women were property of their husbands or their fathers. And when, you know, a woman got married, it was very much like transferring a title of, you know, a property or a vehicle from one man to another man. I mean, women could not own property. We could not vote. You know, we had virtually no control over our own means of reproduction, such as how many children that we had. So, you know, to say that white women had all this agency over, you know, American slavery, I think is, again, really, really, if we're going to talk about history, we need to look at it in focus. We need to look at it, you know, at the full picture here. Additionally, again, the transatlantic slave trade was a Black and a white enterprise. It was not a fully white enterprise. It wasn't Europeans going in and rounding up people. You know, I took African history, and I've taken, you know, several years of African history at a university level, you know, and we go all the way back. And the fact of the matter is there were systems of indentured servitude and slavery within African tribal systems and within, you know, clan groups and king groups. And a lot of times when there was conflict, sometimes slaves were actually a way of trading slaves back and forth was a way to sort of like mitigate conflict and to resolve things. That here, we're going to send you some people, you know, and because there was already a system in place in West Africa, that's what made it so easy to sort of transition that system to the Americas. And a lot of the slave dealers of West Africa were taking people from other, you know, kin groups and other tribes and other clans and literally dealing them to American slave traders and European slave traders. You know, and there, of course, I'm sure we could just sit there and say that there was Black women involved in that too. So I believe, and I think I don't think that women are the real threat here, you know, and even bringing up Emmett Till, which that one TikToker brought up, was like, oh, when a woman says something, you know, Black men die. Is that really true? Is that really, you know, and let's just take the Emmett Till story exactly for what it was. Like, I know a lot of people are saying that it's not the way that it's been told, that the facts are different, but let's just take it at face value and say exactly what the sort of, you know, common mythology around the Emmett Till story that we understand it as. It was a white woman who I guess was whistled at by a 14-year-old boy, and she made claims of, you know, sort of whether it was like rape or sexual assault in some way, and I guess her father and her brother and uncles or whatever came back, and I mean in the most horrific terms possible. And this is the one part that is absolutely not in question. This child, this little boy, was a victim of one of the most heinous lynchings in American history, and it was cruel, and his mother was so brave and you know, pivotal and powerful enough to take those heart-wrenching images of her son, and in the state that he was in after being lynched, after being dragged behind a truck, after being beaten to a pulp, thrown into a river, and published those images. It was cruel. It was evil. It was cruel. And any human being who has even a an ounce of humanity. Immediately that hits you right in your heart, especially mothers, especially any woman who loves any child or any little boy at that age or any age. But at the, again, a woman made an accusation. It was male violence that escalated it. It was male violence. It was men who took it to the next level. When we're looking at violence in general, violence against women, it is male violence. And another commenter challenged me and said, oh, it's men, but we need, women aren't the biggest protectors, men are. True. I do believe that men are our greatest protectors against strange men, other stranger men. But when it comes to interpersonal relationships, for example, when it comes to a husband beating his wife, do you know that when I called the police several times when I was trying to get out of my abusive marriage, which is a very complex, long process of disintegrating yourself from somebody, especially when you have children, especially when you have shared property, especially when you've been together for as long as we had and so many family ties together. When I called the police, a lot of times they are not very quick to want to just swoop in, because there's still an idea that conflict behind, a man and wife are that sort of, family business. That's that man's business. And we don't know what the wife was doing wrong. And we're just going to, that's something for y'all to figure out. You guys need to just keep it down, settle down. So when it comes to interpersonal relationships, that's when women are going to be your biggest allies. It is, and again, this is back when my relationship with my best friend, who again is a Black woman, who's an American descendant of slavery, was with me and helping me to identify the red flags in my relationship, even before that it had, really turned physically violent. She was there. She was pointing things out to me. She was talking to me and helping me devise a plan. And the only reason that she was able to do that was because, thank God, I've always loved women, and I've always felt like I needed women in my life. And I refuse to sever my ties with women in my life for men. I can't, I don't want to. I've always liked the company of women. I like talking to women. I like being able to just be natural in my element with other women. And we had children at the same age. And luckily our husbands were friends. So it wasn't like, he tried to isolate me from some people, but I guess because he liked her husband and our kids were the same age and we really relied on each other for raising our kids, I don't think I could have gotten through some of these harder, earlier years of my life without her. She was a babysitter to me. I was a babysitter to her. There were times where she would come and just drop her kids off at my house and vice versa. The amount of times that I relied on her for childcare and vice versa were crucial. Times when I was working as a midwife, when I was working in birth work, she was instrumental in my ability to thrive. And I would like to think vice versa. Every October was my, son's birthday is in October and her birthday was in October. We used to take a 3-day trip to New York City. My parents had like a little timeshare and we would do a big weekend together and walk the kids through Times Square. We did Christmases together. Literally, our kids would open presents, and then later that day, either I would go to her house or she would come to my house, or the next day we did sleepovers. So because she was so integrated into my life, she could easily see when things were starting to get dangerous. And it wasn't like, she had to kind of inject herself, and helped me sort of notice that stuff, or when I was noticing it, she was somebody I could go to. And she really was my lifeline. I really think that the reason why I survived my marriage and the reason why I was able to get out of my marriage is because of the women in my life. I might still, to this day, be holding up a front like, oh yeah, everything's great. We're this like happy family, like, oh, posting pics on Facebook. Here's us getting ready to go to Disney and all this other stuff, and pretending like everything was all good, and sitting in my room and trying to justify why abuse is happening, and, scared, because I can't explain to you how difficult and scary it is to dismantle your entire life. And you get to a point, again, it's not like they go from 0 to 100. It's not like all of a sudden they just start beating your ass. It's little by little. It's like a frog that lets itself boil. If you drop a frog in boiling water, it's going to hop out because immediately it feels that temperature differential. But if you boil a frog slowly from cool water all the way to boiling little by little with incremental temperature changes, it'll allow itself to boil. Why? Because it never really feels that change in temperature because it's incremental. So again, when you're in an abusive situation, you're the frog that's allowing itself to boil. You know, you like, well, okay, you know, he's never really done that before, and it's, you know, maybe I was being too much, and I guess, you know, we both did things that were wrong, and you find ways to blame yourself, and you think, you know, God, if I pull his family apart, then am I wrong to do that? Am I overreacting? And it really takes other women some time to be a mirror to you and say, no, this isn't normal and it's not okay. And you're not helping your children by staying in that. You're not protecting them. You know, again, we have so many messages about wanting to have an intact family and you got to fight through things and all this sort of stuff. And when somebody can really show you that, no, this isn't normal, you're going to be okay. You can do it. And I felt, because I had women in my life, that when I go through a process of divorce, I'm not going to be alone. You know, it's really hard to go from having another adult in your house to just not having one. And now suddenly all the responsibilities and things that you relied on this other person to take care of, you're thinking, God, am I going to be able to handle it all? Can I do this? And it's like, there's never a good time to be like, all right, today's the day I'm just going to take my life apart. Let's start today. You know, sometimes it does need to be a catalyst. And unfortunately, mine was a really abrupt, you know, a violent catalyst. But I was okay taking the next steps because I know that I had women in my life who were going to walk that journey with me. And amazingly, both of us actually both decided to leave our husbands, who we had, you know, around the same time. She decided to leave her husband too for, you know, other reasons that I'm not going to share here. And we did it together. Like, we literally did. We would just hang out and talk, and it wasn't like our relationship was just on the phone. I mean, we were in each other's lives physically. So when I say that women are each other's biggest protectors, you know, men are only going to do what they can get away with. If you have a woman who's constantly in your house, you think he's going to keep, you know, come and flip out on you and attack you when you have company? No. You know, he would never. I mean, they know better than that. You know, they want to be able to get away with it. So when you constantly have women who are around you and who can see what's going on, you know, A, it's going to protect you in that moment. And B, those are the women. I mean, God, worst case scenario, if I had to flee my house, I have a woman's house I know that is safe, that I can go to. That's not like, you can't just take your kids to some guy friend's house. That's weird, right? I have another woman who I know knows me, knows my children, who my children have spent time with, my children have had sleepovers with. So if I had to take them and I'm trying to protect them from what's going on or from knowing what's going on, it's not weird and abrupt to be like, oh, we're going to spend a couple of days over with Monet. You know, because we sleep over Monet's house all the time. That's normal. And that's, you know, so when I say that women are each other's biggest protectors, and yes, men, I do talk about men needing to be at speaker's corner. I do talk about men being instrumental in standing between us and other men. And that's strange men. That's other outside men. But when it gets tricky and complicated is when it's these, you know, intimate relations. It's intimate partner violence. It's, you know, your father, your grandfather, your whoever it is, your brother, your uncle, somebody who's hurting you. And it's difficult because you love that person and you have you know, an attachment to that person. And not only do you have an attachment to that person, but your family has an attachment to that person. You have an attachment to their family. There's so many complicated things involved. When you have a woman, again, you know, you can love your abuser. That's what makes it hard. You can love. I loved my family. I wanted to fight for my family. I didn't want to pull my life apart. I didn't build a family for it to fall apart. And, you know, and so you'll find ways to justify things to yourself. You'll find ways to validate it. And when you have a woman who can be an outside source, who I also trust, and I know that she loves me, and I know that she liked my husband, she got along with my husband, they were great. So it wasn't like when she was coming to me and saying, hey, you need, like, we got to deal with this, I know that it wasn't coming from a place of like she was just being petty towards my husband or whatever. I knew it was sincere, right? And whatever. And also, it wasn't this like fake relationship. You know, this is why we need real personal relationships with women, not just women that we kind of see on this like superficial level, or like, hey, you know, Karen, we just see out at different events, or, you know, different PTO events or school events and stuff where you feel like you got to keep face. We need women who have seen us at our worst. We need women that we've cried in front of. We need women that we've been gross in front of. We need women that we've, you know, gone through things with, so that it's not like, hey, hi, I know this is super weird. You know, I know you're not used to seeing me like this, but no, she's used to seeing me like this. It's all good for her to see me like this. That's not like a hurdle I have to get across when I have to call and I'm crying and I'm a mess and I'm, you know, worked up or upset or whatever. That's why we need women who are like embedded in our lives, and embedded in our lives to the point that they refuse to leave. We need to refuse to leave women that we know are getting into more abusive situations, and we need to refuse to allow other people in our lives to expel women from our lives. Like, you need to defend those relationships like with your life. And I just think, again, you know, and I was like, oh, what gives you the right to speak on? I've been around the Black community enough, again, like a good friend, like a good sister who loves you, and who, you know, I've had friends who have been in abusive relationships, right? And the guy is annoyed that I'm there because he knows that I can see things. He's like, oh God, you know, Britt's coming over again. I don't know, you know, and he put so much pressure on my friend to get rid of me. And I start saying the things, the hard things, the things that she needs to hear but doesn't want to hear, and it hurts to hear. And again, because this is about somebody that she loves, and I don't discount that. But that's difficult. And it starts to feel like, yeah, you know, she's just a nuisance. You know, oh, you know, well, she doesn't need to criticize my husband like that. You won't speak about my husband like that. You know, but if you are really honest and sit back and you can realize, say, hey, we can recognize things about each other as an outside perspective. Maybe we can recognize things about each other and about, you know, different cultural attitudes and cultural norms on both sides, and say, hey, you know, I noticed that this seems to be, like I said, this whole code of silence, you know, and I understand the distrust of, you know, the police and all that sort of stuff, but I really believe that stuff harms women. It's dangerous for women. It protects men. It protects abusers. It's dangerous to women. And I actually want to have, like, you know, Hakeem on again to talk more about that sort of stuff. We've ever since I put those 2 videos out, like, him and I have had a bunch of conversations, and he has a lot of interesting insight. He watched his mom get her ass beat, you know, many times growing up. You know, and he watched, you know, even one time, you know, he finally said he was like big enough, and he stood up to his like mom's boyfriend at the time and like whooped his mom's boyfriend's ass. He said by the time he was 13, he was like, I was 6'2". I was big, but I was still a kid. So I fucked this guy up. And then my mom turned around and, like, you know, when the police came and all that sort of stuff, my mom was acting like, oh, nothing had happened. Nothing was fine. It was all fine. And it made, you know, he ended up getting in trouble. You know, and he's like, he has a lot of insight too. So like I say, I really believe that, yeah, Black women and white women, we have a lot of things to resolve. We have a lot of things to talk about, but I think that we are such untapped resources to each other, protective resources to each other, that the time, again, Black women right now and white women, we're in crisis levels right now. Domestic violence is so out of control. I don't think we can afford. Oh, here he is right now. Hold on. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna see if I can put him on the. I'm gonna pause the stream and see if he'll come on the stream with me real quick. Hold on for 1 second. Okay, so we're back. All right, so I've never had Hakeem on the actual stream before, but he's on the phone. So, let's see if anyone has any questions. But so, like I said, so it's been like a really like you've kind of I want to say you've sort of seen both sides of the coin, but that's not really true. You've always grown up in like predominantly black communities and stuff like that. Um,
Most part, yeah.
yeah.
I
This
have my share of suburban life too sometimes here and there.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess like Georgia is sort
Yeah,
of
suburbs of Georgia.
yeah.
And
But you
true.
got to speak up a little bit if you can.
The suburbs, yeah, I've been around. I've been around. I had a very versatile life, but for the most part, I'm mainly like in the hood, streets and stuff.
Yeah. But remember how you were saying, and I brought this up too, you were saying how like women especially, this whole code of like there's and this really kind of was underscored, I feel like, with Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. So one comment I had gotten was saying part of the issue of calling the police for black women is the concern that if they call the police even on an abuser, that can result in danger or even death for you know that man and whoever else, and that it's really still I guess women's hands are tied, and it's uh
Yeah. Well, what I had to say to that, and what how I feel about that is, you gotta look out for yourself first. You gotta do what's best for yourself first and foremost. You gotta, if you're in danger or there's a situation that's out of control, you're gonna have to call them. That person is gonna have to pipe down when they come. It's a real thing, but it's exaggeration too.
This is a call from Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution. Dana. Recording and monitoring.
It's exaggeration as well. You know what I mean? Every cop that comes to the scene isn't looking to kill somebody. You know what I mean? But if he gets there and somebody's super out of control, they're not gonna go for that. So that person is gonna have to pipe down. And that doesn't mean that a woman should be scared to call because she's
I know. Wait, hold on for 1 second. I know you guys that it's hard to hear. I'm like literally their phones are such crap, and I'm like I have everything turned up as loud as possible. So sorry. I don't think there's like
tell
much
them
more
what
I could do.
tell them what I said.
Um yeah, well, and also and I like kind of brought up like when you got arrested. I like talked about how like again, the whole situation when he got arrested, they brought like 10 cops. Like I'm not exaggerating. I'm still mad to this day that I did not pull out my phone. My phone was over on the table. They showed up with like 10 different cops on like the most petty. It ended up turning into a citation, not even a misdemeanor. It turned into like a ticket, which is like a speeding ticket. And they came with like 10 police. I really think it was like a training exercise for them. And this is the racist part, right? They it was overkill on, how they came to him. But I came outside. They literally knocked on the door. They had, a man standing there with like a riot shield, another guy, and I looked out and across the yard was like 6 different police holding AR-15s. So they were like, oh, is he in there? And I was like, all right, hold on. Let me come outside. I said, listen, he's going to come out, but just like calm down. But there was that point, like I could have escalated it, or I could have been like, no, he's not coming out. And there was a certain point where I had to step to the side and I had to trust with my whole, of course I was terrified, and I was terrified for you, but I had to trust with my whole heart that you are not an idiot and that you were going to come out and just handle the situation again, because that's really between you and those other men.
Yeah, no doubt. That's why you move out the way. You have trust in the person that you're dealing with, that they're mature enough to snap out of whatever's going on and realize that this is real life, and now there's police involved and they're here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta keep that in mind, and you can't worry about those kinds of things. The advice I would give to my own daughter is, if you feel like, your boyfriend can't handle the police coming to confront him without being shot and killed, you don't need to be dealing with them. Like that's not a good job. You know, if you don't know when to calm down, you know, I might be rowdy with everybody in the world, but once the police get involved, I'm gonna calm down because I know that they got a license to kill. That they will kill you. They'll kill you. They'll shoot you.
No, they told you. Tell them what they told you in the car.
Oh, you shooting with a gun. They weren't taking any chances.
Right.
You know what I mean? For this little minor infraction, they were coming with guns blazing for me because they were scared. They never dealt with somebody. What are people saying?
What are they saying? I don't know. So yeah, and so another thing too that I noticed when you came out, and this is another thing that I want like people to understand. You don't need to fight the police come just to pick you up. Your charges aren't even filed yet. That's not the time to fight your case. That's what the whole court system is for. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you have a preliminary hearing. That's why you have an arraignment. All these other things. That's the time to fight your case. You don't need to sit there and argue. That's why also you don't talk. You don't say anything. You don't answer questions. You don't challenge them. You don't fight them. You allow the arrest to happen. And then you lawyer up and you stay quiet. And then you come up with a plan of how you're going to, like, you know, make the next moves. But you are not...
That a lot of people understand that. You just hit it dead on the nose with what you just said. A lot of people feel as though they have to argue their case in the streets while the situation is at the height and at the peak. That's how violence occurs. That's how situations get out of control because people will be sitting there, I didn't do nothing. Let me go. You have no right to arrest me. Get away from me. Don't touch me. That's when it gets out of control.
And I've seen women almost escalate stuff too, because like, nah, he didn't do anything. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. I could have done that. Yo, there was a moment where I was like, what?
Not to say it like this, but to say it like this. Women have to stay out of the way when all that testosterone are going, when men are confronting other men and stuff. Sometimes it's best to just let it play out, and you gotta have faith in the person that you're dealing with for that person to handle things.
I feel, but don't you think that could even escalate the man hearing like his woman getting like more and more upset and freaking out and panicking?
Because you got to think about it like this. A man is supposed to protect his woman. If he loves his woman and he got love for her, and he hears her getting upset and crying and whining and begging and pleading, that is going to burn a man up inside. That would make me want to defend her and want to defend her honor even more. And now I'm getting out of pocket with these people of authority. I'm snapping now because y'all trying to play me and my girl. Like, no, like, leave us alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just escalates the situation. And
now, like in the middle of you being arrested, I literally had to sit there and I was like, damn, I've thought about this situation so many times. How would I handle it? And I never saw this coming. And my number one mistake was I said, I'm going to go grab my phone. And the fucking dickhead cop said, no, don't grab it. And I fucking listened, yo. And that's how, like, in the moment you just... And I was like, all right. And I just stepped outside and I was just really scared because, again, we had all these guns pointed at us. I've never had a gun pointed at me before.
We weren't ready for that. We were literally, I just got off of work. That was right after my cancer surgery. That was the morning after you took off from work because I had just had my first tumor removed and you were home with me. You were literally I remember. No, you're right. You're definitely right.
We were in the kitchen. I had just gotten... You had basically showered me. You fucking, like... Because I could barely stand up. You, like, bathed me. And then, in the morning, you, like, gave me some breakfast. And you were literally scrubbing my sneakers. And that's, like, something that, like, I don't know.
We hung the mirror up down the stairs.
Yeah, and we had just talked to Charlie. And then all of a sudden, he literally goes, babe, why is there a guy with an AR-15 on the lawn? And I was like, what? And I looked out, and I was like...
Hold on, I said, don't freak out, but there's a dude with an AK running across...
Yeah, no, that is what you said. You said, don't freak out, but there's a dude with an AK. And I was like, huh? And I looked out, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, okay, go to the back of the house. Let me deal with this.
I said, they're here for me. I went to the back door and looked out the back door and seen them, like, running through the bushes.
Oh, they were in the backyard, too?
Yeah, it was a little skinny dude with a suit Like this, look at this clown.
Yo, when I tell you, that was a training exercise. It was literally, they were like, let's use this dude as a training exercise because nothing had, like, they were literally like, all right, let's run through this whole thing. And they were so ready for you to, like, not cooperate. And like, there he is, get him.
Get him. I said, all right, I'm coming out, man. I said, I ain't not fighting y'all. I'm not, all right, cool.
I was like, wait, why did you trip
Get
him?
on the ground. I'm like, what? Get on the ground for what? My hands are behind my back waiting for handcuffs. You're like, get on the ground. Like, I'm like, oh, man, this is weird.
You were so calm. You could tell the one guy was like shaking. They were so ramped up.
Yeah, dude tried to wrestle me down and seen how strong I was, and he's just like put his leg in front of me and was like, just get it out.
No,
like, bro, I'm not fighting you. Like, you ain't got to do all that. You hype.
You hype this shit. Yo, I was like, wait,
yeah,
what?
That's what I said. I was like, you hype this shit.
Yo, I told him, I was like, wait, why did you trip him? I was like, he was literally getting down. I was like, they just felt so dumb.
It was just like it was just a thing. It was a manly thing for them.
But I really feel like had I been like fight, because I could have escalated them too. That's another thing that people need to understand. I wanted to get into it. Listen, I've gotten it in with those cops. They don't like me, yo, because I'll sit there and I've like talked back and
I don't take no shit.
You have 1 minute left.
One thing about you is you speak the truth and you speak up when people are in the wrong. And no one likes it.
yeah.
Especially coming from a woman.
No, especially coming from a woman, yo. They really don't like that. I've noticed that.
People are so corny they can't be redirected by a woman. If a woman is right, she's right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna say y'all right all the time, but when you all are right, I feel as though we should give you more credit.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway,
So Valerie Rodriguez says a girl dating a convict is not cute. This is embarrassing. Yo, people are so miserable.
Tell Valerie, tell her if she ran into a dude like me, she would definitely want to be.
Yeah, nah.
Because her dude's corny as hell.
Yeah, people are so miserable.
He would not.
No, although in all seriousness though, like, and I always tell those people, do not ever take my relationship. Love you.
Goodbye.
No, in all seriousness though, like as much as I want to clown you, Valerie, you're actually right. It's really not cute. No, I'm not embarrassed though. Let me be clear. It's not embarrassing and I'm not embarrassed. But you are right. I 100% of the time, and I actually meant to have this conversation, there is nothing cute about dating a convict. It's not like the whole ride or die thing. Like, yeah, I'm going to stay down and all that sort of stuff. No, it really is. It's for most women, and especially young women, stay away. Like, if you hear that a dude has any kind of a criminal history whatsoever, like, run in the opposite direction. I don't think it's cute. I'm not going to sit here and promote it as like cool or ride or die or da-da-da-da-da. Our history is really complex and it's like not for this channel, but I'm not even going to fight you on that because no, I'm not going to sit here and defend it as like this noble thing. It's not noble. But I know it's hard for, again, on the internet, we just see little sound bites of each other's lives. We see little sound bites of different things and we can make these sweeping generalizations, but the level of stability that, we've been together for going on 5 years now. This isn't like, it doesn't matter. I don't need to justify it to you. You're right. For the most part, you're right. I'm not embarrassed of him and I'm not embarrassed of my relationship, obviously. I could have hit it from the channel and I understand that, like, that was going to be a comment. But for the most part, like, and we're talking about, like, female dating strategy. No, you're right. Absolutely. I think that any woman who is dating, stay away. This is a difficult thing to deal with. He's a really, really high quality person. And I did a whole video sort of explaining how his history of his life evolved to be what it is. He brings a lot to the table. He supports me in unimaginable ways. He supports me, you know, and I don't even need to get into this, but materialistically, you know, it's not just, and again, love is not enough for a relationship. It's not just like, well, we love each other and that's enough. No, that's really not enough. You need somebody who can like grind and support you financially and materialistically, and, you know, who can put in like real work and get into the trenches of life with you. And, you know, so I'm not going to sit here and go on like a long justification for why I know that, you know, my decisions and the relationships that I have in my life, are valuable to me. They are. So, you know, you can trust me or not trust me. It's all good. But my relationship is successful, and it has been very, very beneficial and positive to my life, both of our lives. But I do actually agree overall. If you see that a man has a criminal history, run in the opposite direction. My thing is, if I wasn't with him, I would be single, period. And, you know, like I said, the level of value that he brings to my life, you know, when he's here, I don't want to go into it too far, because like I said, you know, people will find a way to argue with me and disagree with me, and I don't need to justify my life. But in general, like I said, from a female dating strategy point, you're actually right. Let's see. So anyway, no, that call, he just called. So I was like, let's just, you know, yeah. Now he's really my best friend in the world. Like, my life has improved with him in my world. Like, it is what it is, you know? And, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and like justify why, you know, different people have different, I mean, I have 4 children when I met him, you know, I had 4 children. I had an abusive ex. You know, if you talk to a lot of men, you shouldn't touch those sort of women with a 10-foot pole either. Right. But my family adores him, and my parents love him. My sister loves him. I know his family. We work really well together. We work really, really well together. So, yeah. Ella says, I'm at the part where you talk about still being stuck if you hadn't had your friend. I was alone. He isolated me to the extreme. And that is so common. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We really need women. We really, really do. We really, really, really do. Yeah, Grandma, exactly. Grandma, he was groomed really heavily. Again, he was a child of the foster care system. Just as like a quick child of the foster care system, he literally had an adult sign up to be a foster parent when he was 12 so that they could use him to run drugs. So at 12 years old, he started off with a criminal history. And it snowballs little by little. He's at a point, he just did 14 months in prison. Again, this little thing that he's doing in prison it's all infractions, because he has a long parole tail. And when you're on parole, he didn't realize when he took this deal that being on parole was as difficult as it is. They hyperanalyze you. Stuff that you and I, you know, would get let off with a warning. He's doing 15 months in prison, upstate prison. Like, if you looked at his actual criminal history, it's little petty bullshit that normally normal people, you and I, would get let off with, like, you know, a little slap on the wrist, a warning, a ticket. You know, he's doing time, and that's just how parole works. It's what keeps people being reincarcerated over and over. It's a really complex thing. I don't have time to fully get into it. You know, we could I can make a whole other channel on that. We could sit and talk about that another time. But you know, since I've known him, has been a very honorable person, a really, really, really hardworking person, a really, like I said, just been high value in the sense that, you know, he gets out, he works very hard on all fronts, you know, works hard at his jobs. He works hard in my home. He does a lot for us. So, you know, it adds value to my life. Otherwise, I would just be a single mom still doing, you know, listen. And another thing is too, and I want to be clear, I don't support him financially whatsoever. I don't send him money in prison. He works jobs when he sends me money. He sends me paychecks home. I don't spend a dime on him. I don't have time to care for an adult man. He understands that, and he doesn't expect that of me. You know, I don't do anything that would burden me. I don't, you know, certain things like even driving out there to visit, I don't have time. So things like that. No, I'm not like, there is sort of like this low self-esteem tendency to like pick guys who are really messed up and then like they have to depend on you. He doesn't live with me. And that's another thing too. I won't let him live with me. I love him so much. I have children and he's not their father. And I just don't think it's appropriate to let another man who's like not the biological father of my children live with them. I just, you know, we've known each other, like I said, going on 5 years and have been very close for 5 years, but that's not even enough time to vouch. You know, I truly in my heart of hearts believe he's a safe and everything kind of person, but I've been in an abusive relationship before, so I can't trust my judgment in that way. But like I said, I have a lot of family around me. My sister is my neighbor. My parents live 5 minutes away. You know, my brother lives 10 minutes away. People are, you've seen on the stream, I'm like, oh God, people are walking in my house again. My girlfriend lives with me. I have a lot of layers of protection around me. And again, I have a lot of people now who I depend on and who I trust to let me know if they see red flags in a relationship. And I'm old enough now where I'm not going to sit there and argue with people if they've expressed concerns, and nobody has ever expressed a concern who know him, about him being in my life. So, let's see. Yeah, I would never share a bank account with a man. Ever. Sorry, the bank account thing. Listen, at the end of the day, like, we can give advice and, you know, things about whether or not to maintain a separate bank account. This is the only thing that I get a little bit frustrated about, like with the like hardcore Radfan separatists. It's like giving this rigid prescription to women, be like, this is what you must do to benefit your life. It's insane and it's ridiculous. You know, the way that we can help women is show them different options, show them different ways that they can add value to their life, add layers of protection to their life, you know, show it, lead by example, show it happening in action. And then, you know, trust the inherent intelligence and, you know, dignity of each woman to know what fits and what works for her own life and what will add the most value to her life, you know, rather than these like rigid prescriptions. And then we fight about whether or not that woman made the right decision. That's why I say, even, you know, when I say that, I think that women should prioritize female solidarity. I'm not going to like force that down people's throats. If some people don't want it and don't agree with it, even same thing with, you know, building bridges between black women and white women. For some women who don't want that, yeah, I can only wish you the best. You know, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to like tear you down and, you know, flip out about it. You know, women are going to have different reasons for why. I can only talk about why I think there's power and benefit in different decisions, but I don't know every woman's world. You know, I don't know, you know, we've at a certain point, we've got to trust that everybody in the world wants to tell women what they need and what's gonna, you know, like as if we're all just children and we can't make decisions for ourselves. You know, we can just through continued conversation and sharing of ideas, just help each other build on our awareness and build on our, you know, making the best decisions possible. C Squirrely says, my domestic labor benefits you. That labor entitles me to a slice of your financial stability. That's why I'll never pay for a man, and I'll never give money to a man, and I don't care what he's going through. You know, people are like, oh, do you send? I don't send anything. And I won't send any money. You know, I'm so sorry for whatever, you know, happened. I tell you, when I like literally, if I were to pull up his docket sheet and show you what he's like in prison for right now, you'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? It's literally like, it's stuff that you and I would literally get a ticket over. But even with all that, listen, you know, I'm really sorry, whatever your childhood and whatever things happen and they progressively turn into this and now you're on this like, you know, long, whatever parole thing. But that's not, I'm not going to pay for that. And yeah, I also do believe that men have a responsibility to take care of women to a certain extent and provide for women, because again, I am providing a lot, you know, I'm creating a lot of stability and things like that. This like selling to women that they need to be like hyper independent to the point like that they don't accept any help also hurts women. And that they have to do everything leads to incredible burnout. It leads to just women falling apart. No, women can't do everything, you know. We should expect a certain level of reinvestment back into us for all that we do. Yes, Drake 750 says 90% of convictions brought to court by the police are for petty misdemeanors. Yeah, and unfortunately, and I told him, one thing I told him too, I said, listen, people are never going to respond to you the way that they're going to respond to me. I could get loud. I could, you know, he's gotten in trouble for like, he like checked my ex-husband. My ex-husband's dickhead. And he brought, the case that he's in now is for that. And basically my ex-husband had showed up to my house and tried to start shit with me and didn't realize that Hakeem had just gotten home from work. And Hakeem basically came outside and basically told him like, you need to get the fuck out of here kind of thing. And then my ex-husband like sat in his car and called the police. This was by design. My ex-husband literally told me, I'm going to send him back to prison. Watch. And I was like, you need to stay away from us. Purposely instigated a situation, sat there, called the police. Again, my ex-husband, and here's the difference. My ex-husband used to work on Wall Street. So my ex-husband uses this appeal of like, he's this, you know, real put together whatever person, and sit there and like, oh, he attacked me and he yelled at me and he threatened me. And so he's literally sitting up there now in upstate prison for terroristic threats, for standing in our own house telling this guy to get the fuck out of here. And they were on 911, so it was all recorded. And, you know, even my ex-husband admitted he never put his hands on him. He just said, you need to get the fuck out of here or it's going to be a problem. And that's what they came and arrested him with guns for. So again, you know, I could sit here and say, yeah, well, you know, fuck you. I'm just never going to deal with you anymore because of my ex-husband, you know, weaponizing the fact that, you know, you look the way you do and you are who you are, and knew that the police were going to react the way that they do. And that is the part that's the unfair part, you know, and that is the part that BLM is right about. The police response that he got is absolutely not the police response that I would have gotten. It's not the police response my ex-husband would have gotten. It's because of, you know, what he looks like, where he's from, how he talks, his culture. But that's not the time to fight it. That's not the time to fight the injustice. You know, we do that stuff when we go to court. And where he did make a mistake was just by engaging with my ex at all. I told him, don't even talk to him, don't look at him. You, unfortunately, because of the way that you look, because of all these other factors, unfortunately, like, you can't, don't even engage with this person. He told us that he wanted to send you back to prison. We knew that that was the goal, and you kind of gave him the in to do it just by even confronting him, right? So it's really sad. It's I've cried about it. It's unfair. I could rant about how unfair it is, but that's not helping anything. You know, we just got to let this process play out. And from the bottom of my heart, like, this is the last time this will ever happen. You know, people really weaponize. Okay, another time that he had spent when we first got together, he had also spent like 6 months in upstate prison. Why? Because a girlfriend that he had dated, you know, I guess months before he had met me, this woman that he had been with for about, you know, 2 years or something like that, I guess her daughter, she has an older daughter, found my Instagram account, and it had a bunch of pictures of us. And she's like, oh, this is where Hakeem's been. I think he's in a new relationship. What did she do? She was able to, like, she had some of his old mail from when he used to, you know, he used to get whatever, some stuff sent there, called the cops. She had a dead marijuana plant, one dead marijuana plant. Called the cops and said, this belongs to this man. Here's his name. He's on parole. Here's his parole offer. I gave him all this information. He was arrested on one misdemeanor count of paraphernalia, marijuana related, and he did 9 months in prison for it. So you can sit here and tell me, yeah, it's not cute, you know, and oh, he's a piece of shit and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not going to sit here and waste my time, because I know the actual truth. And, you know, I'm not, it's not even worth my time, because I understand that this is what it's meant to do. It's meant to create like a subclass of people that are like untouchable. And so, yeah. Am I able to check Twitter DMs? Yeah, I will. Sorry, guys. My inboxes are so overloaded. When I get off of streams, I have really like limited free time to sit and like sift through emails and stuff. And I try to catch things that I can tell are important. People send me so many correspondences, and I love it, and I really do. And I'm so sorry that I don't have more time to like sit and go through everything and get back to stuff so quickly. So I'm so sorry if I don't get to everybody. I really do try. No, it wasn't from the beginning. This happened like, you know, I shouldn't even be sitting here explaining myself. It's not from the beginning. This is just, it's years after I'd spent time with this person. So these are just the two different situations. But like I said, otherwise, I'm here at my house. Let's see. Psychopaths will have nothing better to do than obsess over people they can't control anymore. Yeah, God, it's like a whole other conversation. You know, if anybody remembers when Meek Mill he went through the same thing. Okay, so Meek Mill was on parole, and even though he's done all these other things and has accomplished all these other things in life, they gave him a really hardcore sentence for riding a dirt bike through the street, and he was supposed to do like years for that. You know, that's what I'm talking about. And people, when they know that you're on parole, will weaponize it against you. Because all you have to do is thank you. Thanks, CPS. Please PM me your, thank you. I will. Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. Oh, thank you. No, ma'am, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I'll check it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Why on earth does the government pay to incarcerate someone for 9 months or something so stupid? What a waste of money. Actually, they make a lot of money off of incarcerating people. God, again, this is such a different conversation. The prison industrial complex is such a terrifying entity. The government makes about $70,000 per inmate per year to incarcerate people. Who pays for it? We do. Okay, they make the money that they make on, you have to buy commissary. They don't give you enough calories to survive. So they force you to buy food from a store. And of course, all the food is super marked up, right? We pay about $2 a phone call to talk on the phone. You know, a lot of families don't have all of the stuff that goes into it. They pay for, you know, contractors. They pay, you have to pay additional for, you know, getting health and all this other stuff. They make so much money incarcerating people. And that's why I'm trying to explain that, like, this is a huge business. They don't want to let people go. And, you know, Kamala Harris, the big, you know, the big, wonderful reformist prosecutor, which is so full of shit. when she was the Attorney General of California, the Supreme Court of California had ruled that California prisons were overcrowded and that it was unconstitutional. And they sent out a memorandum to all of the Attorney General and to all of the district attorneys that and basically everybody else and the wardens and everybody else that they needed to reduce prison population by a certain percentage before a certain time. You know what she did? This woman, who is supposedly this progressive, DA, this progressive district attorney who's so, she's a shining star and is going to lead us to reform, had her lawyers go down and file a suit against the decision, saying that if they release low-level offenders, and again, these are supposed to be non-violent offenders, and again, Hakeem is a non-violent offender. Okay, these are non-violent offenders who are within a certain amount of time from being released on their sentence anyway. And she fought it, saying that if they released that many inmates, even though it was deemed safe to do so, that the state of California would suffer because the state of California depends on inmate labor to fight wildfires, and that they would have to start paying waged labor to do the work that they currently get free labor from inmates to do, and that she didn't want to comply. So she kept Black men incarcerated past when they should have been released, because and how about the fact that also she was giving these hardcore sentences and going after Black men on marijuana charges, so that on marijuana charges. And then when she was on Power 99, or she was on the Breakfast Club, they were asking her, like, well, have you ever smoked marijuana? She's like, well, yeah, back in college, I might have inhaled. She's sitting there, like, keying over the fact that she's smoked marijuana, yet she's locking up, again, predominantly Black men. I've seen the whole roster of men. I've seen all their mugshots put together. It's virtually all Black men on marijuana charges, but it's all cute and funny, right? But this is you guys, like, grand, progressive, Attorney General. Then you look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden's 94 crime bill, all of his platform of, supporting, Black Lives Matter. We wouldn't need Black Lives Matter if it wasn't for Joe Biden in the first place. He is one of the primary, architects of American mass incarceration. Do you know that we incarcerate an entire country's worth of people? We have more people, men and women, incarcerated right now in America than some countries have in their entire population. Do you know that we incarcerate more Americans than every other country combined? It is an industry. So on the one hand, on a feminist level, I fully agree that we should stay away and stay clear of anybody with a criminal record. Okay, you guys don't need to worry about me. I promise you. Okay, my life is running. Trust me. I'm the relationships and the connections that I've created in my life add value to my life. I'm happy, but I don't want my life or my example to be an example to other women. I don't, okay? Because a lot of women, and I've seen how other women are with a lot of these men that are locked up. I've seen it with his cellmates and stuff. I've gotten to know, like, sometimes I'll make friends with some of the girlfriends. Wait, hold on, what? Can you guys hear me? I'll make friends with some of the girlfriends of, like, some guys that he's locked up with. Sometimes we can, like, help each other, like, send notes or whatever and just support each other. And I've seen how they get. And it's really sad because there is just this like low self-esteem thing where it's like, I think some women really feel like they'll purposely get a man who is potentially dependent on them just so that they feel it, because they feel like they can't get like another whatever kind of quality man. A lot of these men are losers. I hate to say it, like there are some really good guys that I feel like shouldn't be incarcerated, but there are also some genuine scumbags, and that's what makes this whole system so complicated. Because on the one hand, some of these people really do need to be away from women and children. Some of these people really need to be away from our communities. And then there's other people who are getting like sucked into this and trapped in this like re-perpetuating stuff. It is such a complex thing, you guys. This was my primary issue. I could talk about this for a long time too. Before I started getting into the trans stuff and the gender critical stuff, this was actually my primary issue, was criminal justice reform, and like real criminal justice reform, and not just like the sort of BLM, like, you know, defund the police, like stupid, you know, kind of ridiculous radical criminal justice reform. But because we have two considerations. On the one hand, we have women and children who are really suffering from street crime and spiked crime, who are trapped in war zone areas, who are calling out for help and who aren't getting it. You know, under policed areas, women who are suffering from domestic violence who aren't getting help. And a lot of those men are getting let off, and that stuff is getting ignored. And then on the other hand, it's like you have this whole like section of people who are just recycled and over and over and over. And when I tell you, he's the most like star. I talked to his prison counselors, and I've had, you know, talk to other people. Like, they're like, we love him. He's like a star worker. He takes on any job. He's, you know, and they're always like, what can we do to help? You know, we feel like this is crazy because we see what he's here for, and it's insane. Oh God. Yeah. It's really sad, all this stuff. And I had such a problem. So that the real reason why I lost Monet as a friend was because I started to wake up to how fucked up the Democrat Party is, how much are the architects of like mass incarceration, and then they turn around and preach Black Lives Matter, but in the most bullshit way possible, in a way that's like stoking tensions, in a way that's like burning down cities, that's almost making things worse. And it's like, you people created this. You people created this. You guys were the ones talking about super predators and talking about, you know, these kids born in the 80s as if they were subhuman, you know, just animals. And now you're a few years later, now it's trendy. You guys are hopping on this new political wave. And the fact that we have like the memory of goldfish, that we can't remember these things, it's really scary. It's scary how easy people are influenced by these sound bites, and they don't look even like a few, like, you know, years into the past to see that, hey, there's an insidious pattern here. You're being manipulated. I don't even get me. Trump helped reintegrate prisoners with the First Step Act. The First Step Act did so many good things. They made it that if you have good behavior, you have, you know, access to earlier parole. They used to have really hardcore, oh my God. Don't even get me started, yo. The misinformation about what Trump actually did for the Black community is also really scary, and it's scary how much people buy into stuff. You know, he was the one who outlawed the shackling of pregnant women in labor, and that was spearheaded by Angela Stanton King, who he gave clemency to. You know, he funded, you know, gave one of the biggest contributions to historically Black colleges and universities. The First Step Act, which was instrumental in beginning to heal these generational curses of, you know, reincarceration, and going back to prison, making real changes, not just saying, yeah, defund the police, yeah, burn down your own cities. you know, actually making, gee, that was the first major piece of legislation to address criminal justice reform in you know, generations. But again, it's like, you know, everyone's buying into this liberal narrative on the news and the media, and that's what really made me stop trusting anything. You know, I hated Trump back in 2016. I was like, he's the worst thing to happen to this country, until I started paying attention. Until I started realizing, wait, why are they leaving this part out? Oh, wait, you said this, but that actually isn't true, is it? Or why are you guys not mentioning when Biden did this? Or why is it that I'm getting now, you know, censored when I'm talking about these issues that, you know, are a conflict of interest with Joe Biden and Burisma and, you know, our foreign relationship with China? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And I started to realize how much people really are influenced. People think that they're so thinking for themselves because they're hearing these sound bites on social media. You think that they're not 2 steps ahead of us? You think that the way the managing the flow of information isn't shaping us every day? We see it with the trans thing. So why is it so difficult to see with these other issues related to race, related to criminal justice reform? See, Squirrely says, all I know is my lower income rural community was 1,000 times better under Trump. We can barely afford to eat ground beef these days. Gas is $4. My electric bills have tripled. Everybody in Philadelphia is saying the same thing. If you look at all like the local, like popular Philly pages, they're all like, bring Trump back. Biden was a mistake. This was one of the biggest like duds ever. You know, and that's the hood saying that. That's not, you know what I mean? That's not white people saying that. That's not who they're telling you is Trump's voter base saying that. You know, that's black Philadelphians saying, bring Trump back. This was a mistake. Joe Biden was the one who was saying, oh, why do we need to vote on issues like gay marriage? They're always wanting to bring up gay marriage. I've got another Marriage Equity Act. Listen, the states have already voted on gay marriage. They don't want it. Why are we voting on gay marriage again? We've got, you know, we've got a flag bill. We've got all these nonsense stuff, and it's just foolish. And now all of a sudden he's a champion for the LGBTQ, but really he's a champion for the T and the Q. Trudeau has destroyed Canada. Look what these liberal policies are doing. But you guys, but then like we recognizing that, but then we've got to look at all of it. You know, maybe everything it's a lie. We've got to take a step back, you know, and I've been attacked for having some conservative ideas and things. You know, it was the black Republican movement that changed my life. It was black Republicanism that opened my eyes to everything. And it was Blacksit, you know, the sort of leaving the plantation, the leaving, you know, decolonizing, you know, black politics from being overly loyal to the Democrat Party when they know that they have you. And when Joe Biden said something like, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, that should be so telling that they're just going to, you know, like, it's like, even like Obama. Oh yeah, I'm just going to, you know, be the real cool president. I'm going to hang out with Jay-Z, take some pics. You know, don't ignore the fact that I'm overspending on war and starting a whole bunch of wars. Oh, ignore that. I'm hanging out with Jay-Z. Hey, guys, you know, hey, for the gram. Stunting for the gram. Like the epitome of stunting for the gram. You know, you're a black president. You're sitting here spearheading for LGBTQ stuff. Why did you do nothing for the black community? We're sitting here and all praising, oh, miss my president. What did he actually do for black... Whoops. What did he actually do for black people? Why didn't he spearhead criminal justice reform? Hakeem might not have ever gone through the stuff that Trump was finally making real criminal justice reform that was already starting to impact our lives positively. And it was like you guys short-circuited it by voting in the architect of this stuff, the guy who profits off of this. Why do you think they want to keep stoking all these race wars? If the Democrats can keep people believing that they are under attack from each other, that the real man is other. Again, this is why I'm getting frustrated. And black women are saying that the real oppressors are other white women. If they can get you to believe that and get us to continue to fight and get us to continue to you know, have all these issues and clash, and then, you know, think that, oh, we're being so oppressed, and then it gives the Democratic Party an opportunity to swoop in and say, oh, but guess what? We're here to save you. We'll save you. We're going to create these policies that are going to destroy your cities, destroy your communities, and then we're going to run on a platform that's talking about how we're going to save you from messes that we created. And we're buying it over and over again, generation after generation. They know that they don't have to work for your vote, because they know that they already got it. Because they know that there's even an internal push. You'll literally hear people say, oh, you know, Joe Biden felt comfortable saying you ain't black if you don't vote Democrat. Because that's what people are literally telling each other. They're literally telling each other, oh, you're a bootlicker, you're an Uncle Tom, you're, you know, oh yeah, you're working for the white man, all this sort of stuff. If you even question Democrat policies, liberal white people have been profiting off of victimhood mentality for a long time. Do you like they'd be out of a job if all of a sudden collectively we all said enough. We're not victims. No, we don't need you to do things for us, to tie our shoes for us. No, we are more capable than you tell everybody that we are. You guys, things would change dramatically. Stop seeing each other as the enemy. You know, of course the enemy is going to try to convince each other that it's us. I just, you know, but that's a whole other thing. I'm not even like ready to have that whole conversation. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I like told too much about my relationship. I'm probably going to come back and like regret this because people love to like weaponize. I share stuff just because I try to like explain why my worldview is the way that it is and how my experiences shape stuff. But I also want to try to like protect things because, you know, then people come in and they get real judgmental and they try to like tell me about me and all this other sort of stuff. And it's like there's so many complex things about my life that, you know, I can't even sit here and explain on air, you know, in these little 45-minute 1-hour blocks. But I you know, I don't know. In general, I've kind of found that, you know, being vulnerable for all the BS that comes with it, it ends up kind of being worth it because, you know, I want people to know that if we start telling the truth about what we're actually going through and stop hiding things and start having more like honest dialogue about things and what we're experiencing and how we're experiencing it and you know, I don't know. Jason, sir, aren't you're the one who's sitting here? Let's see, Jason, you're the one who is so upset, like I said, and I checked you before. Judy or T-Pacing out of here, yo. He's a troll, please. Yo, they were her property. Who? White women who were de facto the property of white men? But no, do tell us more, Jason, about what some modern historian, liberal historian is going to tell us about history. Let's see. What is big? All right, guys, I gotta get somebody, please. I'm gonna get him out of here. Next time, if you like, I don't. This man. Let's see. I hit him. Listen, men have a lot to profit from telling us not to trust each other. You know, on a micro scale, it's men saying, oh, stop being so with your mom. Stop being so, you know, with your sister. Oh, your nosy friend is always in our business. So get her out of here. You know, look how much, again, you know, men are panicking because I'm saying that, you know, women need to have allies to protect each other. Of course you want to keep your hold over. Jason, of course you do. Like I said, you're sitting here panicking that your grip over black women, your monopoly over black women, and that people get mad all they want, yo. But you're panicking that your grip on black women is decaying faster than your defective Y chromosome. Okay? Stay mad, keep panicking, freak out. But at the end of the day, once women start to see that we need other women, women are communal by nature, and there's a reason for that. There is a evolutionary reason for that. The nuclearization of the family was so dangerous for women because it pulled women away from other women, and it kept them alone in the house as the private property of a man. That is dangerous. And look at them panic when we say, hey, we need each other. Hey, we need community. Look at him panicking. He's panicking because what a horrible message that is to tell women that they need to unify. Look, no offense, but look how like all the freak out and it just looks like such Stockholm syndrome to see women push back so hard on the idea that women should become allies. Oh no, we shouldn't. Hey, no, yeah, you get out of our business. We're gonna. That just sounds so much like when I've tried to confront my friends who are in abusive relationships, being like, "Hey, listen, your boyfriend's hurting you. You gotta let us in more. You gotta stop pushing us out." It's like, no, we're just fine. You should mind your own business, okay? Listen, Gerald is great, and I listen. We go through some things, but you just you gotta leave us alone. You gotta leave us alone, Britt. We got. You no offense though, it just really sounds like Stockholm syndrome response in an abusive relationship. The fact that if people are really having that visceral of a reaction over a message that says that we should unify and start to prioritize female relationships over male relationships, take a step back. Take a step back. I always voted left, but I'm not always Democrat. Until 2020, I voted for Trump. Yeah, I was. It was a no-brainer by 2020. I was like, fuck this. But if you look at I vote in all the local elections too, and if you look at my ticket's fairly mixed. I'm loyal to no party. You got to work for my vote. You're gonna have to work for me on every level, on a local level, on a federal level. You're gonna have to work for me, and you're gonna have to keep working for me. And keep digging in, because as soon as you get comfortable and as soon as you feel like you got it like that is when you're going to start abusing your power. And we got to let them know you don't got it like that. We will vote you the fuck out. We'll get you out of here. Cope, seethe, and repeat, Jason. You goddamn right. Cope, seethe, and repeat. Stay mad, Jason. Your grip, your monopoly is decaying. Doe says, Fenwick, I'm Canadian too, but I always voted left. But if I were American, it would have been harder to vote right because of the abortion. Yeah, and you know what? That's like the wrench that they threw in. And I've talked about this before, and like I said, women are going to have to make their own decisions, and I'm not going to look down on people regardless. I know that we're just having to do our best. I still feel like we need to prioritize the definition of woman and protecting sex-based rights over just the abortion issue right now, because I do feel like sex-based rights are... once we lose sex-based rights and our ability to define ourselves as a sex class, and to define women as an adult human female, we're going to start to lose our grip on all other rights for women. And that abortion will eventually be included in that. But it is a really, I don't have all the answers, guys. I don't. I'm doing my best just like everybody else. And sometimes there's times where I have to mea culpa and take a look back and be like, wow, I was wrong, and I've been wrong in the past, but the difference is that I'm always trying to stay on my toes. I'm always trying to challenge and question. I'm always trying to listen to the other side. One of the best things that I ever did in my life was to listen to every viewpoint and every type of person that I was told not to listen to, that I was afraid to listen to, that I felt like I should not listen to. And I suddenly realized, I'm like, oh, this is why they don't want me to hear this. Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. Because there's something to this. This is powerful. Got it. Now I'm going to listen to I'm going to binge watch this, because now I realize why I've been told so many times to not listen. And, you know, I've heard a lot of ex-TPAs say that, ex-trans privilege activists say that, you know, I was told, Kat Cattinson talks about that. She said, while I was identifying as a man, there was like this list of like anybody that was like tagged as a TERF. It was like you were afraid. It was like, ugh, you know, you almost had like a visceral reaction to it, like, ugh, like a disgust reaction. You didn't want to touch it, and you knew not to touch it, stay away from it. She's like, but then one day it was like my curiosity got the best of me. I was like, I kind of want to hear what they have to say. I want to, like, you know, she almost did it as like, let me just see what this TERF rhetoric is. And she said as she started reading, she kept reading and kept reading. And then once she finished the first book, she picked up another one. And then listened to another podcast, and then another podcast, and watched another video. And before you know it, she was like binge watching TERF stuff. And she sitting there as a trans identifying female being like, oh my God, this is why they were telling me not to listen to this, because this is major. You know, so all I can say is, you know, we kind of have been like conditioned into these real knee-jerk kind of reactionary, like, no, you know, I will not listen to that, I won't hear that, you know. And it's dangerous, guys. Be willing to engage with and you know, look skeptically and suspiciously at anybody who stonewalls any ideas. Once you start throwing things like, no, because that's just racist, that whole group is just racist, that whole group is just you know, transphobic, you know, or is phobic or bigoted or whatever. And when that's like overused as a way to shut down, but you don't actually hear them, you know, giving any real arguments, you don't actually know what the arguments of the other group are. You know, be curious. Just stay curious. You know, I'm not saying that you need to suddenly like ally yourself with, you know, anybody, but just be curious. Listen. Don't be afraid. You can't, it's not going to hurt you to listen to ideas. You know, what's the fear? One of two things is going to happen. It's either going to solidify, you're either going to listen to it and you're going to be like, oh, wow, this is messed up. And it's going to solidify what you already know. And actually, you're going to like, wow, that gave me another perspective. And now I feel even more strongly about what I felt originally. You've now solidified my stance. Or you're going to say, damn, maybe I was either wrong or didn't have the whole picture. But this isn't, I'm agreeing with some of this. And you may be forced to evolve. Either way, it's a good thing. You're either going to be stronger in your position or you're going to be forced to evolve your position, because now you're sitting in this cognitive dissonance because you now heard ideas that challenge what you already knew and that you realize are actually right. So you're either going to have to evolve for the better or you're going to solidify for the better. But you cannot be hurt by listening to new ideas. Challenge yourself. Obama has a lot to answer for. Yeah, he does. Yeah, oh my God. He was just like, this is why we cannot vote for people just because they look cool and they talk. No, I loved Obama. I thought he was great. And then as I realized I knew nothing about his policies. And when I really looked at his policies, I was like, oh, what the fuck? Mandy says, I try to watch pro-trans content to try to understand, but I'm yet to come across anything that makes sense. Exactly, Mandy. And what did it do? It solidifies you. You know, I came from a pro-trans perspective, so I already knew what the arguments were, but I watch them all the time. To be clear, I'm always watching pro-trans content to make content for this channel. And I want the truth. If I came across a pro-trans video that really resonated with me, I'm like, oh, wow. You know what? No, this makes sense now. I would be, if something really to click in me and I realized that we are all wrong with this TERF stuff and that trans really is the way and trans really makes sense. Oh, Doeyes, thank you. Doeyes says, I got to run. Great live. We are women first. Thank you. I love that and I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate, you know, all the Black women on this channel who have supported this channel for a long time and, you know, who've been here. Again, we're women first, and it's like, I even just, you know, categorizing ourselves as Black women and white women, and, you know, these are important identities, but we're women. That's our common denominator, and that's powerful, and that connects us to women across time and culture. We can be confident that women 1,000 years ago had many of the same issues that we are experiencing today. There's just a unified, just universal female experience that men will never have. That's what this whole trans fight is about, is that there is something that unifies us. Doe-Eyes, thank you. Yeah, guys, I don't know. Sorry, I was like I didn't mean to be that vulnerable on this stream. Because I know that people are looking for anything to pick me apart on. I know that. I don't know why. It's not like I have some like big agenda on this channel. I'm just sharing stuff that I think can help other women. I know I'm never going to get famous. I know I'm never going to be like making big bucks. That's not the point. I just wanted to create this community that hopefully, share some ideas that I wish I had been told when I was younger, and, learn from other women, so I don't know. Fenwick says, I used to be far less left socialist. Sorry, I can't speak. I used to be a far left socialist a long time ago, but I never bought into the trans thing. I was like, women don't have penises, yo. Yeah, I was like, well, we all know it's really men, right? Isn't that, we're just trying to be nice, just kind of throw them a bone. But then when they started being like, oh, women, trans women are literally women, I was like, all right. Like, no, they're not. Marshmallow Minion says, I'm all for live your life, but the line has been crossed with the kids and erosion of parental rights. It long been crossed. We need to take back. You don't just get free reign. Strake 750 says, I thought Obama was great when he was first elected, but he turned out to be a real disappointment. Yeah, all he did was, his biggest thing was legalizing gay marriage, which was so important. You don't get me wrong, but he was elected at a time when, we really needed real systemic change for Black Americans, and everybody just keeps, why everyone keeps dropping the ball on criminal justice reform? And listen, Black Lives Matter at its root and at the grassroots level, why, Black mothers are getting upset and Black communities are getting upset is something very real. I mean, there absolutely, there is, the prison industrial complex is a very real, terrifying thing, and it is such this oppressive force that looms over a lot of Black communities. However, it's like the Democratic Party is like stoking it by being like, thank you. Oh, Rev, thank you. Reverend Coffin's other son. Thank you so much. I just wanted to show some support. Sucks that YouTube takes 30%, but what are you going to do? Thank you. You know what? But I am grateful that I wouldn't even have this platform if it wasn't for YouTube. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Judy C says, men can be lesbians was it for me. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Alice East, let's see, Dystopian Deep Dive said, so we have due process. Let's see. Alice E says, this is where the buck stopped for me, that bullshit mantra. And what's wrong with saying trans women are trans? Yeah, exactly. And the whole idea that we're now going to reformulate society around gender roles rather than actual like sex-based rights and needs. That it's like, come on, what? Yeah. All right, guys. TPS. I'm not gonna fall for capitalism is evil. Communism. No, I'm sorry. Communism is evil. Capitalism has afforded, capitalism has its problems, but capitalism has afforded women the highest standard of living and the greatest social mobility, and Black people the greatest social mobility, and indigenous people and marginalized people the greatest social mobility in all of human history. So, problems with capitalism have to do with problems of humanity. You know what I mean? And a lot of those things are always going to influence our economics. But that doesn't mean to say, no, I would rather die than, better dead than red. I really would fight hard. If I had to, with this America, we're turning into a communist regime, I'd leave. I'd leave. I would flee. I would be gone. No, I'm not doing it. I've lived in other countries. I've been in South America. I've seen what, communist regimes can do. It's terrifying. I'm out of here. I will go. Thank you, Cassie. Cassie says, first time I got to catch a full live stream. Your honest approach is commendable. Thank you. Like I said, sometimes I feel like it gets weaponized against me, but yeah. And you know, also well, so Looney 28 says there's a middle ground. Politics should be non-binary, and I agree, but actually one of my degrees is international relations, and we went into binary politics, and when you really break it down, you actually realize that a binary party system, as messed up as it is actually sort of protective in a way, because rather than like bundling issues, God, that's like a whole other thing to explain. Bundling issues, and I actually gotta go. We'll talk about that another time. I actually do have some insight on why binary systems actually are not as bad as it seems like, and actually can be protective from letting these, like, you know, issue-led coalitions become their own party and their own thing. So you have a bunch of like one different issue fighting another issue, and it forces, when you bundle issues together, it keeps them from becoming too extreme, and it forces them to actually cooperate with each other, and makes it more palatable for the world. Because obviously people are going to push one issue. They're going to, you know, it's people who are very passionate about that issue. They want to go to the extreme. And if you run on a platform off of just one issue, you could take that all the way to the bank, and people end up being forced between one extreme to another extreme. When you bundle issues into one party and saying, okay, this party, you know, has all these values, right? And you're bundling them. Even though as a voter, you might agree with some of the values, but not all of them. What it does is it keeps those values from dominating that platform. It keeps that there's some sort of an ecosystem of issues, if that makes sense. TPS, thank you. When are we doing TikTok cringe? I know, I meant to do that. It just kind of like spiraled off. I gotta go though, so we'll have to do it another time. Sorry. No, I'll switch it. I'll change it to another thing. I'm just, you know, sorry. Techno-fascism. That's absolutely what it is. It's well said. In Britain, we have Conservatives, Labour Party, and Green Party, and 3 channels. There are more lobbyists in DC than politicians. That is what we are living through. Yepper. Bundle sticks stay unified. Just look what happened to PayPal recently. What happened with PayPal? Did I miss that? I'm reading Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Everyone should read this book. It shows. Sorry, I need glasses. Technically, I don't have them. It shows how communism really was. It's the Red Terror. It's a true story. It's done 20 years ago. Like I said, my family's Eastern European. You know, we've been here for like 2-3 generations. And they fled the Soviet Union. So I trust me, I know. Can you tell? I'm like ethnically Jewish, Eastern European. I feel like it's kind of obvious. Like when you really like look at my face, you realize I totally have like Lithuanian, Polish features. Oh Lord. And then there's this Biden executive order about technology or biotechnology. I think Brit's chat panel is far behind. Oh, is it? I don't know. All right, guys. Anyway, I gotta get going. Sorry about the TikTok cringe. I promise we'll get back to it. Victory Phoenix says my husband is Slavic. Yeah, can you tell? I feel like I like him like 100% Slavic looking. All right, guys. Hey, sorry, Eleanor Lynn. I'm actually ending the stream soon. Sorry. Love you guys. Sorry for like the random just stream. You know, just figured I'd just whatever. I'm just like kind of emotionally drained right now, I think, on a lot of different things. So But all right, love you guys. I'm out of here. I gotta go pick up my kids and stuff. I hope you guys have a good evening. We'll do TikTok cringe soon, or you know what, I can even put one together and just do. I'll throw together some TikTok. I'll do like a pre-recorded video, and then we can also go through some TikTok cringe together tomorrow. Okay.